everybody, and welcome to our World Series review. I am Frank Fiorentino, and with my co-host Dick Reed.
Hello.
Dick, whoever thought we'd be here today?
It's a dream, you know.
It's-
That's what the ball players always think about, talk about, and finally we're here.
It really is a dream after looking at the debacle of last year. Last
Yeah.
place, 67 wins.
Incredible.
And the year before, the fallout in December after a 12-game lead.
Yeah.
And whoever thunk that we would be here for the World Series. Today is Game 1 of the World Series, Boston Red Sox and the St. Louis Cardinals. And Dick, I think most people are probably familiar with the St. Louis Cardinals, as they are with most of the American League teams. So I thought today we ought to look at what we think the Red Sox will face in the Cardinals, and versus versus what they did face with the Detroit Tigers. And I think maybe we ought to just recap a little bit about the Detroit Tigers series, where I think the Red Sox won most of these games in the 7th, 8th innings, because the starting pitching was very good. And if you remember, the Red Sox were no hit in the first 3 games until the 9th inning in the first game, when they got 1 hit and lost 1-0, and they were no hit into the 6th inning of the second game, and they were no hit into the 5th inning of the third game, which were major league records, by the way, for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the Sox, they struck out 47% of the time.
They struck out 47% of the time. And so I don't know if the Red Sox will face quite the same pitching that they faced with Detroit, but the Cardinals and the Red Sox both won 97 games this year.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people realize that.
That is correct. So they were the top 2 winners in the major leagues, 97 wins each. And I think, Dick, that we ought to look at a little bit about the St. Louis pitching staff.
Sure.
Wainwright, who is their best pitcher, will open up with Game 1 tonight. And then this Wacha, who's the number 2 pitcher, who came into the majors this year in the middle of the season for the Cardinals, and has been quite a pitcher for the Cardinals this year. So your comments, Dick, on the pitching as we see it, Red Sox versus Cardinals in terms of starting pitching.
Well, the point is that people think that, well, because the National League, they may not have a strong pitching staff. The Tigers were an outstanding pitching staff. Hey, the Cardinals, by the way, have quite a good pitching staff as well. And so it's not going to be an easy ride for us coming in the series.
That is correct. The Cardinals staff in the playoffs has a 2.57 earned run average. And believe it or not, the Red Sox have a 4.29, which is quite a difference. 2 runs a game is quite a bit when you have a starting pitcher that's as good as the Red Sox is. But in light of what we're just talking about, the latest news is that there may be some issue with Clay Buchholz as the number 3 starter now for the Red Sox in Game 3. Next game will be Lackey, and today it will be Lester.
John Lester, yeah.
Right. But there is some concern about Buchholz's stamina. And yesterday at the workout, the Red Sox had Felix Doubront pitching on a simulated game. And if you've watched the playoffs with Buchholz in his 2 starts, he does pretty well in the first 4 innings, and then he seems to fall. And so there is some question about his stamina. So they're bringing Doubront. Yesterday they brought in Doubront to pitch a simulated game because I think what might happen here is that if we get 5 innings out of Buchholz, it would be a good start for him. He's had a .221 batting average against him in the first 4 innings. And then it jumps to 400.
Well, yeah, that's not good. And, Buchholz isn't, if he's not that strong, that could create other problems. You have to go into the bullpen earlier than we want to, and that wouldn't be good for us.
Right. So I think the reasoning that they're bringing Doubront into focus here is because they don't want to go inning by inning into the bullpen in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. So I think they want to bring Doubront if they have to and get 2 or 3 innings out of him, hopefully. Yeah. So I think that's an issue now with the Red Sox in terms of where they are. St. Louis, by the way, Dick, in the National League, was 13th against pitching in terms of the number of wins they had.
Yeah.
So they didn't fare well against left-handed pitching. So the Red Sox will throw, obviously, Lester, and that's why Doubront, I think, is is the guy that might come in for long relief. Although we do have a veteran pitcher in Dempster. And your comments about Dempster?
Well, I thought that Dempster might play a role, realizing that Buckholz could have a problem physically. And so who do you turn to? You turn to a relief pitcher. The guy, what's his name? Dempster was a relief pitcher with the Cubs for years, and he could possibly fill in a short period, in a short series like this. So he is, I would say, a guy who could come in out of the woodwork and maybe do something for us.
Yes.
And he's an experienced starter. He could also be used in long relief if necessary as well.
We did have some great relief pitching against the Tigers in terms of Breslow coming in the 7th
Yeah,
and
he
8th
did.
innings, a left-hander. And Uehara, we all know what he's done and what he is capable of doing. So the Red Sox bullpen, did very well against the Tigers as well as against the Tampa Bay Rays. And I think, Dick, that we're not going to see, when I say we, I mean the Red Sox are not going to see the same type of pitching from the Cardinals that we saw with Detroit.
I agree with you, Frank. I think also here we are playing the Cardinals, and their National League style of ball is a little bit different than what the Red Sox have faced thus far this year. So that could play a role how this game gets played, you know?
Right. The bullpen of the Cardinals is very strong. There's 4 pitchers in that bullpen, Rosenthal being their number 1 reliever, who get throwing at an average of 96 miles per hour. And they have a fellow named Martinez at 96. They got Axford, who throws at 93. And they get Seagrass, who throws at 93. So these guys can bring it, unlike what the Tigers showed us. And I know most of you followed that series, and you saw the Red Sox really give us a fit in terms of 7th, 8th, and 9th innings in terms of the number of runs they scored.
That's true. I think, though, I'm not so concerned really about these high-speed pitches. I think if you even take a look during the year, take a look at these guys who throw in the mid-90s, eventually big leaguers can catch up with them.
If the fastball is the pitch, then they can catch up with them.
Right.
Right,
But
because
if
the
they
big
have
leaguers can do
If
it.
they have the breaking pitchers like Verlander and Scherzer, yeah, I mean, they were able to mix it up, and that made a big difference.
Right.
And that's why we had a lot of strikeouts on our side.
Too many, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Too many, in my opinion. But and also, Dick, as you know, we're playing a national, obviously, and we lose the DH
Yeah, we do.
in the National League ballparks, which is a big issue as far as I'm concerned, as far as the Red Sox are concerned, because you're not going to have either Napoli or Ortiz lineup at the same. You're not going to have both of them in the lineup at the same
that's
time.
True, yeah.
And Napoli can get hot, as we saw, but then he can strike out 10 times in a row. So we've seen that too.
Yeah, but Napoli is an outstanding fielder. Some people don't recognize. They're always hitting in the strikeouts, but I think he was the leading fielder for the Red Sox this year.
He was, and I was very surprised at that because I thought that the Red Sox would have a difficult time defensively at first base this year, because Napoli never space.
No.
He basically was a catcher. And when Gonzalez left us and go to the Dodgers, who was an excellent fielding first
Sure.
baseman, I thought we were going to have an issue at first base, but he's been a very pleasant surprise.
Incredible, yeah.
Right. Now, the Cardinals are going to use a DH on the American League ballparks, but the Cardinals' DH is not really somebody that they have really looked at and said, we need to get this guy or that guy for the DH, because there's no DH in the National League.
Right.
But the American League playing with the DH, I think, is of a detriment to the Red Sox in terms of whether they're going to have the Napoli in the lineup or Ortiz. I would think that Ortiz would be in there at least 2 of the 3 games in St. Louis. Because as you know, the first 2 here at Fenway, today and tomorrow, they take a day off, and the next 3 in a row
Yeah.
are in St. Louis. And then they come back after a day off if we play 6 and 7. So I think the DH is going to be somewhat of an issue in terms of the Red Sox ability to, hit.
Well, Frank, and also, Ortiz goes into play first base, and he's an adequate first baseman. He's not like Napoli, obviously, but that could play a role in how he's able to field or not field, and that could make a big difference. And St. Louis could play to that weakness.
St. Louis could play to that weakness. Now, Ortiz played in, I think, probably 75% of the games they played this year against National League teams. And by the way, the Red Sox had the best record in the American League against National League teams. Yeah, they did. So we're going to see a different brand of baseball, I think, in terms of the National League style of play and the Red Sox style of swinging. Now, another frustrating issue that I see in most of our fans is the Red Sox take a lot of pitches, Dick.
They do.
They take a lot of pitches. Very rarely do you see them swing at the first pitch. So that philosophy is based upon the fact that, as we know, most pitches are on a pitch count, including the starting pitches.
Yep.
And so the more pitches the Red Sox take, that's the more pitches that the starters has to throw, and therefore they're trying to get him out of the ball game. Because when a pitcher hits 100 to 115 pitches, basically that's it for him. Whether it's the 5th, 6th, or 7th innings, he's out. So the Red Sox are trying to get the starting pitching out of the game so that they can get to the bullpen. And I think they're going to have a little more difficult time with the Cardinals' bullpen than they did with Detroit's.
Well, interesting about Detroit, Frank, we had almost 6 pitches per at-bat against the Tigers. That was a very high number. And, even with the controlled pitches like Verlander and Scherzer, I should say, they would still keep us under control. I mean, we mentioned earlier the number of strikeouts, 47% of the at-bats against Detroit were strikeouts. Not good.
Not good.
And it's not like the pitching is going to fall off the table facing the Cardinals. They have a pretty strong pitch well.
Yes.
And so how we fare against that club is going to make a big difference, obviously.
Going to make a big difference. If you look at the statistics in the playoffs, the Red Sox and the Cardinals were 1-2 in teams this year in terms of batting average.
Yeah.
None of them were good. The Red Sox had a team batting average of 236.
Not good.
Hard to believe, but that's what
Yeah.
it was. And the Cardinals were 210. Hard to believe, but but they both had 77 hits for the Sox, 75 hits for the Cardinals, 38 RBIs for the Cardinals, 40 for the Red Sox. Pretty close.
Pretty close.
Pretty close. But as I said, pitching-wise, Cardinals had a little bit of an edge in pitching in terms of ERAs. The Red Sox were 4th in the playoffs in pitching, and the Cardinals were 1st.
Well, interesting enough, during the year, the Red Sox, we talked about taking pitches. They led the major leagues in the number of pitches taken.
4.1 pitches taken.
Yeah.
And they led the major leagues, correct. So I think they're going to try the same philosophy that they've been trying all along. So you very rarely will you see a first pitch by the Sox. Yeah. I think the other issue is here, we need to look at the Red Sox in terms of their team speed. They led the American League in stolen bases, believe it or not. Although Ellsbury, 50-some stolen bases this year.
52.
52 stolen bases. And he's on his own. That means that he doesn't get any information, he doesn't get any signals from the bench or the coaches as to when to steal and when not to steal. He just is on his own. I think the Red Sox have a little more difficulty, other than Ellsbury maybe, in stealing because the Cardinals have a very good catcher,
Outstanding.
Molina.
Molina.
There are 3 Molinas in Major League Baseball, and of them all, he's the best, and he's a very good catcher. And I think the Red Sox are going to have a little more difficult time
I agree with
stealing in terms of what he can do. I thought we would take a look at position by position a little bit and see where we stack up against the Cardinals. And obviously, in catcher, they have a major advantage in terms of defense in catching. And Saltalamacchia, we talk about strikeouts. Saltalamacchia is a pretty good hitter this year. He had 273, and he had 40 doubles.
Compared to last year.
Last year he had 225.
Yeah.
But he strikes out a lot.
Oh, gosh.
He does strike out a lot. So I think the Cardinals, defensively, etc., a significant edge in the catching department. If we want to look at first base, you've got Matt Adams.
Yeah, Adams.
Adams versus Napoli. And I think the Red Sox have a little bit of an advantage. We can get Napoli to cut back down the strikeouts a little bit and provide us with a little more hitting. Although Napoli did hit in a couple of games there. He hit pretty well for us in the playoffs.
He did.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that you can't depend upon him.
Yeah, it's when you the fifth, sixth hitters, Napoli, Gomes, Saltalamacchia, they came up a lot this year with men on base, and I think they struck out quite a bit.
Yeah, they didn't deliver.
Yeah, they did not deliver in the manner that we would hope they would.
They at least would hit a fly ball to advance the runner, and they just didn't do that.
Yeah, frustrating in the last game, Dick, when Victorino couldn't lay a bunt down.
Oh my gosh.
With men on first and second, and then he hits that grand slam. By the way, he only had 3 hits in the whole playoffs. One of the grand slam. Yeah, he was not a big hitter in that series. He was not. I think at second base you have Matt Carpenter and Dustin Pedroia. Well, we know about Pedroia and his fielding ability, but Dustin Pedroia, did not hit in the playoffs.
No, he didn't.
He only
surprisingly.
Surprisingly, yeah, he had 5 hits in all of the playoff games, in 11 games.
Carpenter's a pretty good ball player.
He's a pretty good ball player. So I think overall, that's probably even with Carpenter and Pedroia, defensively and offensively. At shortstop, we got Stephen Drew and Cosma.
Yeah, Cosma's a young guy.
He's very young, very young. Drew really been not too good at the bat. He had 2 hits in his whole playoffs.
Oh my God!
Yeah. I don't know if he had an idea up there or not. As we say in baseball, does he have an idea? But I think overall he's going to be there.
Yeah, he is an outstanding defensive ball player. He made some key plays during the Detroit series.
Yes.
And so, I mean, you can't question his defensiveness, but his hitting ability is extremely poor.
It's extremely poor. So I would say, everywhere along the line, that Cosma and Drew are probably on an equal basis. Yeah. Cosma's not as good defensively, but he's a little better with the bat. If we look at third base, it looks to me like Xander Bogaerts is going to be the third baseman in this World Series over Middlebrooks. He does have an idea at the plate compared to what we've just talked about.
Very disciplined.
Very disciplined at the plate. He had a count on him, and he ends up with a walk.
Yeah.
Fouled off a few pitches, and he was instrumental in that game against Detroit when they were hitless until he hit a ball off the center field wall for a double.
What a smash.
Yeah, and so I think Bogaerts is going to be, I think he's got a lot of potential, and I do think that the Red Sox are going to use him next year as their shortstop.
Yeah, I think they're going to release Drew. Drew is a great fielder, but his bat is so weak. Yeah. You just can't afford to keep him.
$9 million this year they paid for Drew.
Yeah, a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. So I think Drew will be gone after this year. And Bogaerts will be the shortstop. And I think Middlebrooks will get a shot again at third base. And if he doesn't produce next year, I think the Red Sox are going to be in the market for a third baseman.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Now, the Cardinals' third baseman is Freese, who, if you remember a couple of years ago, I believe hit the winning home run against Texas in the World Series. Really an unknown in terms of baseball at that time. But he's not a great fielder.
No, he's not.
He's not a great fielder. So I think the Red Sox have just a little bit of an edge in terms of third base over Freese Cardinals.
And by the way, Bogaerts is an outstanding fielder.
Yeah, very good fielder. And I think he'll do well in terms of defensively. And he's very cool for a 21-year-old kid who came into the Red Sox system, came up to the major leagues and basically didn't play that much. I think he's got a lot of presence, and I think he's cool at the plate. He does not get frustrated at all.
No. Imagine if we had kept Iglesias.
If we had Iglesias, we could move Bogaerts to third and have Iglesias at short. Speaking of that, we'll digress a minute. As you well know, Iglesias is gone, obviously, and we have Jake Peavy, who, in my opinion, was just okay.
Yeah, he was just okay.
He's been around 13 years. Won a Cy Young 10 years ago. Has eye problems. He's legally blind.
Yeah.
And if you notice, the catcher has the iridescent nail polish, if you want to call it that, on his fingers so that he can see it. And he has corrected lenses, but he's still not 20/20.
Yeah, it's difficult.
And Peavy gave up 7 runs against Detroit.
Plus
Yeah.
the fact he gives up a lot of home runs too.
And he gives up a lot of home runs. So he's probably going to be the number 4 game starter. Yeah.
Although, when you mentioned talking about Buchholz, I wonder if they would switch him around to pitch the first game in St. Louis.
That's very possible. I think it will all depend upon what happens in these first 2 games. Because if either team loses the first 2 games, it's really, in my opinion, desperate.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to come back 0-2. And then you've got 5 left, and you got to win 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not like these clubs are pushover. Both clubs are pretty good.
Yeah,
so.
this could be a long series.
Yeah.
At least on paper, it looks that way. Now, if we look at the outfield, Dick, we have Matt Holliday against Gomes and maybe Nava. And Holliday is not a good fielder.
No, it's not.
No, and looking at that wall in left field, even though he's played it at some point, he hasn't played it a lot. When he was with the A, and he played left field, obviously, but then he went to the National League. He played for the Rockies in the World Series of '07.
Yeah, he did.
So he's been in the National League a long time, and he's not a bad hitter. He's got some power.
He does?
He's got some power, but Johnny Gomes, I don't know. He's a psychological issue with our manager, I think.
Yeah, they take a look at Gomes and think that he's Mr. Emotion, he's going to lift them up and what have you. And he may do that for them. But from a defensive perspective, I have questions about
I
him.
do too. I
You
do
know?
too.
I mean, so you take a look at like Holiday coming in here. He's going to have difficulty playing the wall, believe it or not.
Yep.
They call it the monster for obvious reasons. And playing the wall for the first time, it's going to be a problem for him. And same with Gomes. Who knows what Gomes is going to do? But
Right. Holiday by far is a better hitter
no
than
question
Gomes. And you know the guy lost in this shuffle at the moment, anyways. Daniel Nava.
Yeah, it's too bad in a way.
He was the number 2 in the American League this year.
Yeah, he was.
Believe it or not. And he had a great season for the Red Sox this year. And he's a switch hitter.
Plus, he's not a bad defensive player.
And he's a good defensive player, in my opinion. He's a good defensive player. So I think there's going to be a spot for him somewhere in the next in the 5 or 6 games that
I think when they go to St. Louis, he may play a role.
He may play a role in St. Louis, right. In center field, I think, we got Jacoby, and I don't think we need to say that much about Jacoby, but the bottom line is that this guy, John Jay, is center fielder for the Cardinals. And I think that the Red Sox will have a significant edge defensively and offensively against John Jay as a center fielder for the Cardinals.
But Jay's not a bad fielder.
No, he's the best of the
Yeah.
3 out there. And then we have Carlos Beltran versus Shane Victorino in right field.
Yeah.
Well, Victorino is good defensively. I think we all know that. And I think he had a very tough series with Detroit. He hit the grand slam, which was, a significant blow, obviously.
Sure.
But he, in my opinion, was almost like Drew. He didn't have an idea up there of what was really happening. I just think he went into this slump. And I said the other night when he got up with the base, the best thing for him to do is stand there and get hit by a pitch. At least he can get on base. As you know, he gets hit by a lot of pitches.
A lot of pitches.
But if you watch him and where he stands, he's right on top of the plate. So he basically takes away the inside the plate from a pitcher. Because if the
Yeah.
pitcher goes too far inside, obviously, and they want to try to back him off the plate, they're not going to do it. And so he gets hit quite a bit.
He kind of reminds us of Don Baylor. When he
Don
played.
Baylor.
He got hit, 250 times? in his
200 or more times, yeah,
Yeah.
as there. And he's been hit 8 times already,
Yeah.
Victorino. So I think stand up there and get hit, if that's what you have to do.
Because you can't get on any other way.
You can't get on any other way. At least up to this point, it's been that way.
I think also the fact that, when you're getting whacked around like that, it takes its toll. And I think he's played a lot of games, and I said physically, when you're at 32, that's what he is.
Yep.
33. Believe it or not, that takes its toll at that
He's
size.
got a 3-year contract, Dick. He's got 2 left on that 3 years, $39 million for 3 years. So I think the Red Sox might have a little edge because of the defensive abilities of Victorino over Alan Craig, who is the Beltran. I think offensively, Beltran is a better player.
Oh, yeah, no
Yeah.
question about it. But
Right.
as we talked earlier, one of the problems that Beltran is going to face, this is the first time he's played right field in Fenway Park.
Yes.
And right field, as we all know, is a difficult place. It's a big right field compared to other ballparks. And so we may have a little bit of advantage defensively there, but offensively, Beltran is quite a ball player.
Overall, the Red Sox have a better advantage defensively as a team than Cardinals do. And obviously, the DH we talked about.
Yep.
We got Ortiz in there, and the Cardinals really don't have it. They got this guy, Alan Craig, who's a pretty good player, who's been hurt a lot and will not play in the field. And he's a decent hitter, but he will be their DH. So I think that's, basically where we stand with this World Series. I think it's pretty even, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is.
I think it will be a pretty even World Series. But as we remember in '04, the last time the Red Sox played the Cardinals in the World Series, it was 4-0 the Yankees
was.
after they lost the first three and got beaten badly by the Yankees. And then they go to St. Louis. They play the Cardinals, and they win 4 in a row there.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to win 4 in a row here.
I don't see that.
Nobody sees it, but let's hope it happens.
Well,
I got a prediction, Dick. What is your prediction?
I think 7 games it's going to take to win this.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 7 games to win this myself. Obviously, we want to see the Red Sox win this World Series, but I would not be totally shocked if the Cardinals did win it. I think it's going to be an even World Series, but let's face it, the Red Sox had a tremendous year. We never thought we'd be to this point
That's incredible.
after finishing last year in the debacle, and so I say whatever is a plus for us in this World Series. So, Dick, I hope the Red Sox can do it this year, and I hope we see a lot of these Ks, and we're giving a little push
For the
here.
Cardinals, that is.
Cardinals, right. So the K is for strikeouts. This stands for a swinging strikeout, and the upside-down K is for a looking strikeout. So when you see that up on the center field bleachers, you'll know what it is. Dick and I also want to give a little plug to our Wakefield Rotary Club, as we're both members of our Rotary Club, who do a tremendous job for the community. So everybody in our Rotary Club is also a Red Sox fan. So go Red Sox, and we'll wind up after this series sometime in November. So thank you all, and let's hope the Red Sox can win this World Series against the Cardinals. Thank you very much, Dick.
Okay, Frank.